Do you ever just go and see a film and you just think, wow, this is what we should be doing, really, to be honest, that's really what the end goal is here, to be fair. Yes, we're back. Second upload. How exciting. Welcome back to the YouTube channel. It's me, I'm Ryan, obviously. No Brian this time, it's just me by myself in a different setup because I'm not a one setup kind of guy. I like to move around. I like to move around. I like to play the fill, as one would say. Liar! Anyway, after a long and tumultuous road of misses and then fine and then miss and then fine, we just might be back. We just might be back. Marvel since Endgame has been a weird one. They either make fine to kind of a miss, or like some of the best stuff the MCU's ever put out. For example, Spider-Man No Way Home came out pretty much directly after Endgame, and yes, you look back on it and you're like, it has its problems, but I still think it's a really strong Spider-Man story, and I still remember it fondly, and it's still kind of somewhat iconic, obviously, for the thing that it did that nobody will ever forget about, if you know what I'm saying. Or for example, this year we had Captain America Brave New World, which I did not hate. I found some enjoyment in it, but I get where the critiques of that film come from. Recently, Marvel have sort of been on a decent run. By that I mean the past two things they put out have made a decent run, to be fair. Daredevil Born Again, although to me it's not hit the heights of the original series, because how can you? That series is absolutely fantastic. I still think it's a really, really solid return for Daredevil and a solid introduction to the MCU. This brought me on to the Thunderbolts. So the history of the Thunderbolts is an interesting one because this team is really not like its comic counterparts. It's very, very different in how they're founded and where they come from. I mean, Thunderbolt Ross isn't in it. He's got nothing to do with it. So they really took a different approach for this. And I remember when this was announced, it was kind of like, okay. And then you saw the team line up and you're like, okay. But I think this kind of worked in this film's favor, because then they could go and create something that they really had no expectation. Not in a bad way. I just feel like when you saw the slate they announced, when the Thunderbolts got announced, you were kind of like, oh, I mean, okay, yeah, I suppose I might see it. Do you get what I'm saying? So obviously Marvel had hits recently. Guardians 3 was great. Spider-Man No Way Home was good. Deadpool and Wolverine was fun. Bit of a mess, yes, but it was a fun film, a fun time in the cinema. So the Thunderbolts really had an open field to go for it, and they got some great talent behind this film. I'm sure you saw the promos that were obviously talking about the team that were created behind it. It was directed by Jake Schreier, and he obviously was involved in Beef, and I'm a big fan of that show. I thought that show was great.
Why did you... what you did was not nice! It's not nice to do that!
So there was some decent talent going into this, and obviously they were like, oh, we have the cinematographer of like The Green Knight, and we have the person who did the production design of Midsommar and stuff like that there. So they took some interesting choices with the team behind this film. But it's not really the first time that big blockbuster superhero films have went into the indie market and brought talent up to create these things. So that didn't mean it was going to be a surefire success. And obviously the cast is great, and that's the first positive I really want to get on to with the Thunderbolts. This cast is fantastic. I love every single character in this film, and that comes down to the performance and the writing. The writing is great. This film is hilarious. Every line that John Walker said had me absolutely cackling. Not cackling, but some of them were really funny, and some of them had got some light sniggers out of me. I also really like Bucky in this film. I think they really utilize him in a different way to how he's been used in other films. He's a lot more dry and a lot less of a straight man, but a lot more of a sarcastic, dry wit, which I really like. He delivers some great lines. David Harbour is hilarious. He is really the main comic relief of the film. He rocks up in this film in the limo and he gets out screaming. I had me roll, and I thought it was funny, and every line he delivered after that was hilarious. He was a great comedic relief, but also delivered the emotional bits really well. Hannah John Kamen, I think it's that, is so much better than what she is in Ant-Man and the Wasp. She gets so much more to do here, and she eats up the scenes that she's in. I think she's actually a standout in this cast. I've really enjoyed watching her in this film. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus is also great as this sort of subtle villainous twist that I quite enjoy. She's kind of like a Sam Rockwell type character in this. But my two standouts are without a doubt Lewis Pullman as Bob and Florence Pugh as Yelena. Florence Pugh is like star, man. She is the star power. Anytime I see her in something, I'm just like, yeah, she is class. She's such an amazingly talented actress, probably one of the best actresses working today, without a doubt. And she shows it here. She really is the lead of this film, and she carries it. She hits the comedic bits when she needs to. She carries the emotional moments, and she just has so much charisma and so much star power that it feels like a leading MCU character now. You know, the way we had Steve Rogers, and then we had Iron Man, and then we had Thor. It kind of feels like Yelena is stepping into that simply because of how good Florence Pugh is and how charismatic she is. And I'm really glad, because it's cool to see female superhero get that sort of leading person treatment, especially in an ensemble film like this, which we haven't really seen the MCU do. And Lewis Pullman as Bob, or the Sentry, very cool as well. It was cool to see the Sentry done in live action. I think he looked great. I think Lewis Pullman played both sides of the Sentry really, really well. So the cast is helped by this amazing script. The script is really good, the dialogue's really snappy, they all play off each other really well, they've got a great chemistry. The MCU has sort of always done really well at making ensemble films, and this is a prime example of how great they are at making an ensemble film. Visually the film looks great. This might be the best looking MCU film, as like on filmmaking terms anyway. It's so well shot, it's so nicely lit. I feel like MCU films of the past have fallen victim to having the blockbuster look. They look quite flat. This has so much depth, subtle choices. There's a great shot right at the start where Yelena is fighting in a hallway and there's shadows like shooting up the hall. It looks really cool, and it's sort of foreshadowing for the film. The visuals on the Void are, I don't know how they did it, but it was really cool. You might have seen snippets of it from trailers. I don't want to spoil too much how they do it, but it just looked really, really cool. And for something that could have looked kind of edgy, I also want to give a shout out to something people might not talk about, which is the score. The score in this film is really good. The MCU tends to rely on needle drops, and there isn't really any in this film. There's one in the post-credit scene, and there's one as a gag, but the rest is all this really interesting score that they utilized. I know the score was done by Son Lux, who were behind Everything Everywhere All at Once, and you can see their talent imprinted on this film. But now I want to get on to the meat and the bones, what I feel like kind of sets this film apart from different MCU films, and that is the story. And that is where I'm going to get into some spoilers. Really great story. This film could have turned out to be naff, but the way that they do it and the way that they write it and implement these characters really justifies its existence within the MCU, and not just as a throwaway film, because it is an emotional, driving and moving story. I'm not going to get into some spoilers for the film, because I don't think the trailers haven't really lined out what this film kind of is actually about. They do a good job in kind of subverting your expectations of it. So spoilers in. Are you gone? People haven't seen the film? Are you gone? Yeah, this film is kind of this subtle metaphor and allegory for mental health and depression. Well, it's not hugely subtle, but it's a really interesting way of approaching this. I've never seen a superhero film really tackle these themes in this interesting of a way. Bob, or the Sentry, instead of making the Void this huge, humongous evil thing, which it kind of is, they make it as like an allegory for depression. The thing that I loved so much about this film is that the final act is not this huge battle against this giant CGI shadow monster. The final battle is literally them confronting their pasts and dealing with it. Well, Bob mainly. They confront the things that make them who they are. Yelena does it, and all the other characters do it to get into the Void. They literally beat the Void by being there for each other, which sounds so corny, but it's not. It's great. It's really well executed, and it's really quite emotional, because the film puts in so much heavy lifting for you to care about these characters, and you do by the end of it. And that's what makes it great. The MCU has not had unbelievable plots. What carries the MCU is the fact that it has such great characters, well written characters, well executed characters, and great performances and great charismatic characters. And that is what this film has, and that is to me what the MCU has been missing since Endgame. It lost big hitters, and this film feels like these big hitters returning. Like I watched that and I felt like all these characters are cool. I rooted for every single one of them. I cared about every single one of them, and that's because they put in the hard work to make you do that. And you can't help but not feel endeared to them, because they're people who have done bad things trying to do better. I love this plot. I love this story. I love this film, actually. I think this is honestly one of the it might be top 5 MCU. But it's just so cool to see such a creatively driven Marvel film. Obviously, there's probably Kevin Feige meddling to connect it to the rest of the MCU, which there is, going off of the post-credit scene and the after-credit scene, and the way the film ends, and what the Thunderbolts become. And the asterisks does mean something. This is a different rendition of the Thunderbolts compared to the comics, but I'm fine with it. I like this. In the context of the MCU, it makes sense. And as a film, it's a great film. And it's a great blockbuster. And I really think between this and Sinners, it's a good path so far, a good opening to the summer blockbusters. And I hope that films continue down this path, and I hope the MCU takes this path where it trusts these creative mortals to create these interesting stories and these interesting films. Yes, I hope we can maintain the quality that the Thunderbolts has set. That's that. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, like, and all that fun stuff, and I'll see you when I see you.